Now, if I want to do something, it requires planning. Whereas 10 years ago, I would call you and say, "Hey, man, what are you doing tonight? I got nothing. Let's do something." Hey, Dave.
Rob, how are you? I've missed you.
Thank you. Um, I want to start. I want to start quickly here, and I have what I hope is a thought provoking question for you, and I'll tell you where it came from in a minute. When is the last time you made a new friend?
The last time I made a new friend, maybe 8 years ago when I joined the company that we work for. I think that's probably the last time. Like
So,
a real friend.
are you assuming that we became friends that
I
quickly?
didn't say
Because
it
I'll
was you.
tell you, okay. Because I'll tell you, it took a lot longer than
Oh,
just that. You did not make an immediate splash. Let's just put it that way.
okay. All right, that's fair.
Okay, so it's been a while.
It's been a while.
You
Yes.
are in your early 40s, and it's been 8 years or so
Yeah.
last time, and it was a work, right? So it was in a work situation that
Yep.
you made a friend.
Yep.
I was thinking about this because I'm not that different than you. It's been a while. Actually, that's not true. We moved, and we've made friends with some folks in our neighborhood over the
Mhm.
past couple of years. But if you would have asked me this question 2 years ago, it would have been the same. It would have been a long time. Like
Yeah.
people we work with would have been the last group of people I would have said are friends of mine.
Yep.
So this came from, as I've shared before, social media. I have a lot of strong negative opinions about it. But I do have a special place in my heart for Reddit for some reason. I think it's like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. Like there's a person on one shoulder of mine that's like, oh yeah, scroll through this just disaster of a social media platform and see what's going on. And the other side is like, what the fuck are you doing? Like
Mm.
this is terrible. So when the side that gets me is usually at night, if I can't fall asleep or something, I'll just get on there and see what's going on. And I notice, so I live in St. Louis and I'm on the St. Louis subreddit, just like I'm sure you're on the Denver subreddit. What?
Yeah, the challenge here, Rob, is I think you're gonna start talking about the challenges of finding friends.
Uh huh.
You you know where you're for sure not gonna find a lot of cool people to hang out? Is on the St. Louis subreddit. If you're looking for the corner of the internet with the least cool people, that you found it, okay?
Oh,
And I
well,
hope that when you're at parties trying to make friends, your intro is not, "Hey, earlier I was on the St. Louis subreddit, and let me tell you
so
about how the zoning has changed."
so thank you. So the reason I got on the St. Louis subreddit at first was not to make friends, but it was to just understand more about what's going on in the city, in the metropolitan area. However, there are people who go on there and they post things like, "Hey, I'm going to a bar. I'm a 25-year-old guy and I don't have a large network here. I'm going to a bar. Who wants to join me? Or who wants to play card?" So there's just a lots of these types of requests. And so I went down a bit of a rabbit hole and looked at just other cities near me. Like I looked at Kansas City and other like mid-sized cities like Cincinnati. St. Louis is not unique in this. There are a bunch of random posts on a lot of these subreddits for people just saying, "I don't have many friends. Who wants to hang out?" You're smirking. Go ahead.
This is not my story to tell, but I'm gonna tell it anyway, and I'm gonna try to protect the innocent in the story, okay? I have a friend, one of my closest friends, who is an incredible fisherman. Like, I mean, just it could be a guide.
Okay.
Fishes like 60 days a year,
All right.
very hardcore about it, ties his own flies, only fly fishes, and is constantly looking for new fishing partners. So he goes on to Reddit and he goes, I'm gonna find I don't know where it goes into the Denver Reddit or whatever Reddit thing subreddit. And he goes, hey fellas, anybody here want to go fishing with me? and he gets a lot of people that say like, "Yeah, I would love to go fishing with you. You know, what kind of rod do you have? Do you do drift
Uh-oh.
flies or do you nymph?" Or do and it goes and he realizes that he
Uh-oh.
gets like, written by, 15 people write him. He realizes eventually that it's a all sexual innuendos,
Yes.
and that's what this group of people are interested in only. There was no one there that actually wanted to go fishing with him. And so it just made me think about you trolling the here. I can't figure out why no one in St. Louis wants to hang out with me. Maybe looking for something different than they are.
That could be. That could be, and that is maybe where when I was reading some of this, maybe some of these people on there are just they're trolling for sex. They're not actually trying to find friendship. So that could be the case. Uh, Poor that guy who
Well,
is looking for actual people to go fishing with, and maybe overlooked the fact that that fishing as a hobby is ripe for sexual innuendo.
I just I just have to say, I think there are more people in Denver that want to go fishing than there are in St. Louis that are interested in the zoning laws. So I think your St. Louis subreddit might be something different.
Well, it could be. And again, I was just noticing that this was happening. And the other thing that I noticed was it's right. It's adults, people in like their 20s and 30s. Now, there aren't people who are like, well, I don't know if they're like teenagers and stuff, but like younger people on here. And then we'll get to this later, but it's overwhelmingly guys that are asking this. There are women who are saying stuff like this, but it's overwhelmingly men. And it caused me to wonder, like, what is it about being an adult that might cause people to do something that I find to be like uncomfortable. Like I read these things, I'm like, oh, like I feel sorry for this guy, or like there's something going on there. Like, why can't he make any friends? Like, why would you post this
Mhm,
on a social media platform,
mhm.
assuming that you're not, trolling for sex?
Yeah.
And so that's what I want to talk about today, which is and and the topic I think I'll be able to even share some personal experiences, which is building relationship or building friendships as adults,
Mhm.
and how potentially it's more difficult than
Yeah.
it is as a younger person, and why
Yeah.
that might be.
Yeah, I think it's very my experience has been that it's very difficult.
Hmm.
It's funny when you're talking about, I mean, I like to make fun of it, but I think from a psychological standpoint and even from just a pragmatic standpoint,
Hmm.
it does make sense. Like that's actually a good place for you. It should be a good place for you to find like-minded people, right? Like if you're into the city of St. Louis and you're on there, like those people, only someone similar to you would be interested in that kind of content. And if I went on to if you go onto a hiking
Yeah.
subreddit in Denver, that's probably people that like to hike like you do.
Right.
It should. I mean, it does feel sad, but maybe it shouldn't feel sad. Maybe that's actually a reasonable way to
Yes.
develop relationships.
And I think you're right. And so I think so. I don't. Maybe you're not understanding. Like, this is not like people who are just into urban planning, because you like to make fun of me for being into that. This is just like every city has a subreddit that is not specific to any one topic. It's just anything that has to do with the St. Louis metropolitan area or the Denver metropolitan area. It could be about restaurants. It could be about
Oh,
accidents. In St. Louis, they talk about, oh, here's another license plate that's 3 years expired or something like that. Like, it's about
oh,
anything.
I did think it was like a city planning
Yeah.
subreddit.
Right. I mean,
Okay,
no, that's why I went on to it in the
okay,
first place.
yeah,
But no, I quickly found out there's quite a wide variety of topics.
okay, yeah,
Yeah. But I think you're right, because I think that was going through my mind, and I was trying to figure out why did I feel sorry for this person? It could be that, again, just the nature of interaction is different.
mhm,
Like when I was 25, I still had a network of people that I would interact with. And the thought of randomly like posting something, I mean, 25 is 15 years ago. It was not on Reddit, like on Facebook or something like that. and
Mhm.
saying, "Hey, I would like to meet up with people,"
Yeah.
seems weird.
Yes.
But if you know, maybe now that's not weird, and maybe it's a me thing and
Yeah.
less of just like a weird thing.
It is a unique thing to actively acknowledge that you're pursuing friendships, right? 'Cause
Yes.
if you compare, like, as a kid, it's really easy to make friends, but there is no time when I ever verbalized that I'm gonna go to an event in an effort to make friends,
Mhm.
right? You're just at school, or you're on a soccer team, or you're in the chess club or whatever, and you make friends.
Yep.
Whereas, like, going on to Reddit and saying, like, I'm lonely. There's a vulnerability that comes with that that's unique.
Yeah, I think so. Which and it's different because yeah, before it took less active work when I was a teenager or in my 20s because I was just around people and more people more frequently. And so there was a lot less active pursuit and more just I see the same person a couple times. We have whatever similar interests or whatever it is and then we just make that you know, build a stronger relationship. Whereas now that's less the case. So anyway, I want to get a bit more into why, because there is a lot of data to suggest that it is more difficult
Mhm.
to build friendships, um, especially as adults. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think I'll start with what you and I were just talking about is the world is becoming increasingly online.
Yeah.
Again, there's lots of research to suggest that kind of approaches to building any sort of relationship, romantic, platonic, whatever, friendship, pre-COVID versus post-COVID is different.
Mhm.
It went very much online. And because it was a year or two, or maybe three, depending upon where you lived, of you interacting with people more that way, it started to change behaviors.
Yeah.
And so it made it
Yeah.
more different.
Yep. Yep. For sure. Yeah. And that's 100% true.
Yeah. So
You would
there's that.
think
Yeah.
you would think that it would create closer connections, but it does. I mean, I guess I don't know. On the one hand, you're having closer connections because you can find people like you, but it's not the same level of I'm not sure if I agree with this as I say it, but not the same level of depth as it would be if they were people that are
Yes.
around you, closer to you.
Well, I think you may
Proximity.
be having more interactions.
Yeah.
I would disagree when you said deeper. You're not having deeper interactions.
Yeah.
You may be having it just happening more frequently, but very surface level, and maybe it's just a comment here or there going back and forth. Well, that's a connection, I guess, but that's not a relationship.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think so that's one thing. I think what resonates for me the most, and I've certainly experienced this was probably the biggest difference for me was having kids.
Yeah.
So, my wife and I were married for a couple of years before we had kids. But the amount of focus and energy, both physical and mental, that having kids takes
Mhm.
reduces your ability. And even for someone who's very social like me, sometimes my desire to go be social.
Yeah.
It's like
Yep.
getting up early, going to work, coming home, taking care of kids. It's 8 or 8:30. I mean, I can't wait most nights to just sit
Yeah.
and not do much.
Mhm.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think, I mean, if you even think about this podcast, like the amount that there's a challenge for us to find the time
Mhm.
to record this
Mhm.
podcast, which
Mhm.
we record at home. Like it couldn't be any easier, but it's still difficult to find the time because we've got other priorities, like
Yep.
people that need us, and it's difficult
Yeah.
for me to go out and go get a beer with somebody is feels to me like it's off the table in the middle of the week,
Yep.
you know?
And I think that's the other one is the planning. So maybe this is correlates with this, but for me, I've experienced that too. Is now if I had to do something, if I want to do something, it requires planning. Whereas 10 years ago, I would call you and say, "Hey, man, what are you doing tonight? I got nothing. Let's do something."
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so you add that planning component to the busyness of a lot of
Mhm.
people's lives. And even if you don't have kids, right, you have other responsibilities, whatever it might be, it is difficult to
Mhm.
do some of this.
Mhm. Yeah.
The next one is, and I think this goes to kind of that connection with people interacting more virtually as opposed to in person. I don't know if this is the case for Denver, but certainly in St. Louis, and granted, I'm not out there as much as I used to be, but the physical places for people to connect, I feel like are much less frequent, and or there are fewer of them.
What do
Like,
you
bars and clubs and things like that. Like when I was in my 20s, in particular, like going out and doing these things, like there are whole entertainment districts in St. Louis that are no longer, that are dead.
that makes sense. Well, I guess what I'm aware of is that there's not much. I feel like there's not the same amount of, like, I'll say it this way. Like when I was in college,
Hmm.
uh, going to a bar, everybody wanted to go to a bar, really, because there's a hookup culture, right? You're either going to the bar because you want to watch the game, or you're trying to pick up on somebody,
Right.
or you're going to the club. Like it's the same. Like the drive is, we're going to hang out and do this. But if you're married and you have 2 kids, that's not what you're. So there's less, like, it's like, well, what are we going to go do? If we don't want to go drink, what's the thing? How do we? There's not a space for it
Yep.
like there was earlier.
Hmm. So I think that's it. And yeah, I mean, and it was just easier to do that too because of the lack of responsibility
Mhm.
in other parts of your life.
Yeah.
I would also say, and I think you and I are hinting at this. I think there are male female differences with some of this, because even in some of the way that you're talking there, like you go to a bar or something for some sort of purpose, like some sort
Yeah.
of action, or there's a reason for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the research into this would say something similar, that men are much more likely, especially in Western cultures, to
Mhm.
bond over some shared activity. Right.
Yes.
So like, I'm not very athletic. I've never played sports, but I do know I do have friends who have those types of activities, and they've built new friendships because they play softball or flag football,
Yeah.
or they have some sort of hobby where
Yep.
other guys come along, and then you build friendships that way.
Mhm.
Whereas women may be more comfortable, and it may be more culturally um, in alignment with them not necessarily needing to have an excuse, so to speak, to come together and do something. There's a difference there.
There is a difference there. I'm trying to think about it. It's funny because when you asked me, you said, "When's the last time you made a friend?" And I was like, "I think it was a decade ago." It's not true, because I've made friends playing indoor soccer, and I've made friends mountain biking,
Hmm.
and made friends, like, it's all 100% activity based.
Yep.
But I
Yep.
don't even, it's funny because I didn't even quite clock that those were new friendships,
Hmm.
because I think in my mind, like, they're bucketed, like, those people are, that's who you're gonna go do this activity with.
Yes.
But I don't, I haven't made a friend in a decade that I would call and go, "Hey, let's just go." Like, I would never even, there's nobody that I would go, "Hey, let's just go get a coffee and talk." I
Yep.
just never do that.
Yep. And you'd be, and it would be correct. I trying to think. I mean, I do that with certain family members, like cousins and things like that, or friends I've had for a long time, especially, now that we're parents and things like that. Like we don't see each other all that often. So we might just text each other up every couple of months, say, let's go, grab a beer or something like that. But yeah,
Would you go and get a coffee with somebody, with another man that's a friend?
I mean, I'd like to say yes, but then I'm trying to think, have I done that?
Yeah.
Outside of my family members, so my male cousins, yes, I've done that. But men that are not related to me, I can't come up with an example of a
That's an
time that I've
interesting
done
thing.
that. It's like a drink thing.
Yeah, I would go. If you said, "Let's go get coffee," I would. It's not that I wouldn't do it, but it's not how I would normally interact.
Why?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what the, because, like, then, like, if it's just getting coffee, then it feels like I actually wanna hang out and talk to you. It's a little bit too intimate, versus if I said, "Let's go get a beer," Well, then I want the beer, and Rob, you can come along. Do you know what I mean? I think it's an intimacy issue.
Well,
Maybe it's
right. I think that's it. So for me, I think that's it. Like the same conversation or whatever can take place in either situation, but
yes,
it feels more socially appropriate for me as a guy to ask, for me as a heterosexual guy to ask you as a heterosexual guy
yes,
to go grab a manly beer or drink. And
yeah,
it feels less appropriate for me to say, hey, let's, grab brunch.
yeah. Do you think it's just socialized? I don't know if homophobia is the correct way of saying it, but um, socialized insecurity around our masculinity.
Well, I think the research would say this is it's just societal gender norms because this is not the case necessarily for men in different countries
Oh,
and with
interesting.
different cultures. Now, again, there are still what tends to be a commonality is men come together usually for some sort of joint task or
Hmm.
activity. Like that's pretty common for
Hmm.
men to do. It's either maybe it's more like social clubs that exist in other cultures, or in still more cultures that are more agrarian or rural. Right? It's they come together to achieve or to pursue some sort of task.
Yeah.
Right? Men come together to do these things, and then women do something different, a bit more of those traditional gender norm role type things.
Yep.
Um, but it is certainly fairly Western, not just Western, but fairly Western for this type of
Hmm.
issue to come up where it feels now like this. I don't ask another guy to platonically go to brunch by
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah. That
Like
feels
this isn't Sex in the City. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think that's a big part of it is it just feels more difficult because that's not what we do. And a lot of the research would suggest that men struggle more than women not only build friendships, but maintain them.
Hmm.
In part because of this.
So does the research say that that is are they just looking at the numbers, or is this a is that sentiment echoed in what men feel? So what I'm saying is, if you look at how many friends I have made over the last decade in comparison to what my wife Allison has made, she's made far more friends. But if you asked each of us who has a stronger desire for more friendships, she would have the bigger unmet need. I mean, there's times where she'll be like, "I just don't feel like I'm just not connecting to people," right? And I'm like, "I don't have that." I feel pretty sort of comfortable alone.
And that may be the case. I looked into this and I'm looking at my screen where it says this. I'll share a quote. In terms of basic psychological needs, men and women do not differ significantly in their need to form friendship relationships. So there's not a strong need. The difference is how they express the need and how maybe they're acculturated to or to not express that need. And of course, you also just could be talking about an individual difference because for me, I have a strong need to be social and to build relationships. My wife does not.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so she is comfortable with a kind of a closer band of friends.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she certainly has, developed new friendships. Again, the past couple of years, just meeting new people as we move to a different neighborhood. That's certainly been the case. Our kids going to school, being school age, and just meeting parents that way. That happens. Um, but what I do find interesting, because I would have thought something similar, is in my experience, it is mostly, at least in a household where there are kids and a man and a woman, like parents.
Yeah.
It is more often the women anecdotally have experiences that set up the social things.
Oh, 100 that's for sure how it is in my house. Like, what like, I mean, we'll, like, have a conversation like, "Allison, you better go make us some friends,
Yeah,
because 'cause I'm not gonna do it."
right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that is harder for. and I'm like, I feel like I am, I don't lack in social confidence.
Right.
Do lack in, I don't know what it is, like initiative, or I don't know like what to say, or that's like that finding a male friend is very, the idea of it seems so unappealing to me that I'd rather Allison find a friend and then I'll meet the husband, you know, over dinner that
And
she sets up.
just cross your fingers, hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an interesting thing as a parent. You are real, at least I feel very dependent on my kids to pick friends who have cool parents. I mean, not cool, but parents that are like me.
Yeah, that you would wanna spend
That I would
time
want, yeah.
outside of,
'Cause every once in a while
whatever
they
else
pick
you
your
do.
friend and you're like, "Ugh,
Yeah.
jeez, this
Yeah.
is," you know?
Yeah.
And so as I'm saying this, I'm going like, "Well, what kind of arrogant asshole, makes his wife go create all the friendships for them?" But that is kinda how I operate.
Right, and I don't think you're alone there.
Yeah.
And, this will be really geeky insider talk for a second, but on the one survey that we use a lot in our business, the IDI, on those top four, which are all around wanting to build relationships
Yeah.
and stuff. Do you remember off the top of your head? Are you high, low, or medium in any of those?
I'm very high on giving, very high on receiving, and very high on belonging, and very low on expressing.
All right, same with me. Because I was
Yeah.
wondering about that. Like, is your need to belong
Yeah.
different? No.
No. I want, I mean, if I was coaching myself, I would say, "Hey, David, if you have a strong need to belong, you have to share a little bit of yourself, bud. You can't
Yeah.
just hide who you are." But I don't, so yeah, I think I pull back emotionally more than I
Yep.
should.
Same.
You do the same?
Yeah.
You don't strike
Certainly.
me that way. I feel like you're pretty, I feel like you're better at expressing, I mean, you seem like you're more motivated and better at expressing yourself than I am.
I'm more motivated to do it. I don't like it.
Mhm.
And it feels uncomfortable. So a good example is recently I again become friends with people in my neighborhood, was texting with a guy who lives down the street, and we become friends, my wife and I have, with him and his wife, and our kids, and their kids are about the same age. And I wanted to do like a whiskey tasting night. And him and I were texting, and I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm comfortable enough with him where that wasn't a big deal. But then I was like, all right, well, should other people come? And I was like, oh, but anyone else I would invite to this,
Yeah.
like, I don't know enough to
Yeah.
feel comfortable doing this. And there was like a thing. I was like, oh, like,
Yeah.
should I, it feels weird and needy and overly kind of vulnerable
Yeah.
almost to
It
send that message.
yeah.
And I forced myself to do it. And
Good
I
for you.
felt uncomfortable doing it.
I think I couldn't do it. I'm impressed that you did it. So did you have the whiskey tasting?
We did. There were four of us. Now I'd like to take credit for inviting anyone, but no, my friend down the street invited two other people, and then they came. 'Cause I did reach out to three other people, and it was like 2 or 3 days beforehand. So as we talked about, right, family,
Mm.
these guys all have kids and stuff like that. Like none of them can make it, but um,
Wait, how was it when they
it was. I mean, it was great. It lasted from like 7 to midnight.
I'm impressed and jealous. So it went well. You hung out for like an extended period of time.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun.
Hold on, you're drinking whiskey from 7 to midnight? Were you guys just blasted? A
Uh, I'll say this in the passive voice. I was overserved.
You even though it was your house and
Yeah.
you were serving?
Uh-huh. I was overserved. I wasn't the only one, but not everyone was. So, but no, it was great. But
Mhm.
I think that's the thing, is that's part of why, I think a lot of this is coming to me is like, why am I so uncomfortable to do this?
Yeah.
If this was again 15 years ago, I don't think I would be as uncomfortable. Now, maybe I would have, but I'd
Mhm.
have so many opportunities to in person
Yeah.
just run into people and say, "Hey, I want to go do this." Well, first, when I was 25, I wasn't having whiskey tastings at my house, but
Yeah.
um, like it wouldn't take as much effort and then feel as needy or vulnerable.
Yeah. Do you, it'd be interesting to see now that you've done that, how the other guys a follow-up or reciprocate. Like, I bet you that you've now normalized in that group
Yeah.
that it's okay. I wonder if other people will do similar things.
Right. Well, we'll figure out. I know it's the uh the neighbor down the street. He listens to this. He does tell me that. So we'll see. So he's listening to me talk about this.
So, an invite is expected.
um but yeah, I would agree. I would say that all right, that's usually the most difficult thing. That's probably true in most relationships. Like that first outreach
Mhm.
is the most difficult. And assuming it's not a terrible experience for anyone involved, then the next ones become easier and easier.
Yeah. It's funny as you talk about that, I'm thinking, like, how could it go bad? The whiskey tasting could go bad, but no one's gonna receive the text and be like, "Oh, how weird is Rob, but he wants to hang out with me." You're not
Right.
gonna get re there's no the part that feels vulnerable, I mean, it's really I mean, it's I think it's a social norm. The
Yeah.
social norm makes it feel weird, but it's not.
That's it. It's like
Yeah.
guys, like I don't receive these. I don't hear people doing this much. And so it feels outside of the norm
Yeah.
for someone like me to do this. And as a result, I feel uncomfortable.
I think that on paper, we all sort of know what we need to do as adults to make friends.
Yep.
Because of real obligations, but also social restrictions, especially
Yep.
for men,
Yep.
we don't. And I think you do a good job of looking at like being objective about what the social restriction is and saying that's stupid, and then doing what you need to do to create the relationship.
Yeah. And I wonder too if my wife, for example, if she was highly extroverted, I I don't know. I wonder if I would be as likely to go do some of this stuff.
Oh, because like,
I don't
yeah.
think I would. Or we were talking before about, how do you build friendships?
Mhm,
But I think then the next question becomes how do you maintain them?
mhm,
Which
mhm.
also as adults can be difficult for all the things that we just mentioned. Other reasons rather. So one is frequency.
Yep.
So for example, I think like you and I would say are better friends in addition to working together because we have a weekly interaction like this that we did
Yes.
not have before.
Yes.
So I feel like I know you better or that I'm, closer to you because of this than I was a year ago.
Yeah. 100%.
So that's what a lot of research would say is there's this frequency. So frequency is and that seems of course like a duh thing to say, but that's one
Mhm,
of the things is how frequently are you interacting with people.
mhm.
And I think of friends of mine that I would still consider good friends, but I don't see them. I see them maybe like once a quarter. So, the nature of our friendship is different.
Yes.
But I think the good news is as it hopefully becomes more frequent, then it's easier to
Right.
just to kind of start where you stopped. And I say that, and I think, do you have examples of that where like people you don't see very frequently, but you feel like you don't have to do all of the oh hey how are you and how are things here, and you just dive right into what you want?
Yeah. Yeah. Like my best friend from high school or my cousin and the people I'm very close to,
Yeah,
I feel like that we operate that way.
yeah,
Um, yeah, but I am not good at doing what I should do, which is checking in with people. Like I worry about that a lot because I have really good friends from college that I never see and never talk to.
yeah,
So we'll text every once in a while, but it's not like, like in a perfect world, we would have a monthly, whatever, group Zoom call.
yeah,
Everybody check in. We don't do that. And
mhm,
I am not good at initiating that at all, you know?
yeah. I generally am not either.
Is it a cop out to say that you're busier with work and kids?
I don't think so.
Or is it the like part of it, that's the truth, right? Like the pie of your life is now made up largely of kids and your wife, kids and life and work versus when you were in college, it was probably a little bit of school and a lot of friends. That's your
Hmm.
whole pie. And now the pie is just getting tighter and tighter and tighter. It's hard to have that extra, like you have to really make it a priority.
Yep. And that's it. I think you're right. And it's important to me to focus my relationships, you know, with my kids, with my wife,
Mhm.
and then oftentimes with my family.
Mhm.
And then, certainly some friends in there that I've known for a long time or I'm very close with that I see more routinely. And so I get it, right? There's only so many hours in a day and I have priorities. So at some point it's, well, if I say I have these priorities, then it makes sense that I'm not
Mhm.
a social, as social as I used to be. So there is some more research into how do you maintain these relationships. Uh, but off the top of your head, right? We talked about frequency
Mhm.
as being one critical component of maintaining friendships as adults. What
Yep.
else would you add to that list?
I would say that, yes, you have to be there is probably the
Mhm.
first thing to do. I think you probably have to, be vulnerable with your friends. I think that you do run the risk for
Yep.
people that you haven't seen them in a while,
Mhm.
and you wanna tell them, like, I see this all the with the kid thing is it drives me crazy. It's like the reason that I struggle with making new friends, that are my kids' parents is, like, sometimes it feels like the whole conversation is about kids
Oh,
and
yeah.
how perfect their kids are always perfect. They're all gifted and talented, all of them, and it's just like, so I guess I'm thinking that if you want to maintain a relationship, you kind of have to do all of the things that are good in relationships. So interact frequently. When you do interact, you have to be interested in them, not just their kids, but interested in them. You have to also be, interested and interesting.
Mhm.
Talk about your own life. You have to be willing to really talk about what's happening in your life, not just like, I think it's for men in particular, and I do this all the time, is we don't want to be braggadocious, so we minimize what we're doing. Like, I see a friend, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in 10 years. How you doing? Good, plugging along, working kids. It's like, okay, well, David, if that's how you enter the conversation, you are now the most boring person in the room.
Yep.
And I think there is a best practice, which is you have to go, like, be transparent. What's going well? What's not going well? What have you been up to? Like, be comfortable in the spotlight a little bit so that people have something to connect to you by.
Yep. I I like that last one in particular. Um, it aligns with coaching that I've given leaders in the past, where the level of specificity of your question results in that same level of specificity of response.
Mhm.
So if you say, "How's it going?" I'm going to say, I'm good. It's fine."
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you say, "Ask something specific about my life,"
Right.
then
Right.
I'm going to respond more specifically, more detailed, and probably a bit longer in a way that may generate a conversation.
That's a really good way to look at it. Like, so if somebody asks me, how am I doing? I will give some lame answer. If they ask me, how's work? I'm going to say, good.
Yep.
Same old. But if they said to me, what's the most difficult part of being a psychologist? I'll give a much more interesting answer
Yep.
to that than I would. I'm gonna steal that. That's a really good, like, framework.
And again, going back to the conflict thing you mentioned before, I said this to people for a really long time, and it wasn't until this year
Yeah.
I made a more conscious effort when someone asks me that question. Like in work, right? You and I talk with a lot of people every day.
Yes.
And most conversations will start with, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" Or "What's new?"
Yep.
I will sometimes ask that, "Hey, what's new and exciting?"
Yep. Yep.
And then I won't, I'll get a pretty general response most of the time. Then they'll ask me, and I sit there usually for a second and try to come up with, "All right, what is new with me?" So I'll come
Yes.
up with, "All right, well, this thing happened to me at home or at work or with my kids or this vacation I went on or this activity I'm excited about."
Mhm.
And it may then allow for a 1 to 2 minute conversation about something.
Yep.
But especially if my intent is to, become closer in whatever way I define that with that person, then hopefully that helps.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
helps us have a better connection than the platitudes will.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's very good.
I was I forget, this is probably a client who told me this, um, who was relaying it from someone else, but I think so this person worked for a multinational company, and the company had a big presence in Germany. And this person, so had some German team members, and he shared with me this interaction where the German guy was like, After working with Americans for a while, I've come to realize when you say how's it going, you don't care. That's
Yeah.
like saying hello. In Germany, I think it was Germany. In Germany, like we don't ask that question unless we just say hello.
Yeah.
Like we don't ask the question
Yes.
unless we actually want to know. But in the US, at least, this is just code for hello.
Mhm.
And so this guy was trying to come up with answers to this question. And then over time realized, oh, that's not what you're looking for.
Not into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Totally makes sense. Yeah. It makes sense that stereotypically they'd be very efficient. Like this is a way.
Right. Yeah. Why do you keep wanting to know what's going on or how are things?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just to sum it up, like yeah, it is more difficult
Mhm.
to build friendships as adults for a lot of the reasons that we talked about. And then I liked what you said. I wouldn't really add much to it as far as how do you maintain those, right? It's frequency, proximity, either physically or like you and I are doing right now, just having that opportunity. It's that vulnerability and openness. And
Mhm.
then I like a lot of what you said, which, be interesting and interested.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those are probably good tips for any type of relationship.
Mhm. Yeah. Good.
All right, man.
Thank you,
That's
Rob.
what I got for you.
Yeah, let us know in the comments what you think. Are there other strategies that you use to maintain or create relationships as adults? Let us know in the comments. You can see us at Shrink Space Show on Instagram and TikTok. And you can always drop us an email at shrinkspaceshow@gmail.com.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you.